Good afternoon and welcome back to the club. It's our final episode of the season and it's an action-packed season, an action-packed show to finish us off. I'm joined by James Dawes. Great to have you here.
Yeah, nice as always to be here, George. You know, we're really excited after so many great episodes, so many great stories shared throughout the series. But we wanted to bring a bit of a different perspective today to today's show. I guess from not necessarily involved in the club, but outside also to give their thoughts and ideas on Spanish football. You know, we've got Aaron Clark, who's the captain of the English beach soccer team. Alvaro Arias, who's been with the club since its inception. Yeah, and it's quite fitting really that we're at this point now, newly promoted to the Tercera, and have someone that's been here right from day one. But to start with, you know, we're a pleasure to be joined by the president and vice president of Vélez just down the road from us, George, in Jesper and Magnus.
And I think, you know, to be able to welcome on two people that made a big impact in the football region. You know, they've transformed a club that had gone through a little bit of a hard time, a very historic club, you know, here in the Malaga region in Axarquía, and now to be in the Segunda Ref so quickly. I can't wait to have them on and hopefully give us some guidelines and some tips as we get ready for national football.
He met a girl that could hypnotize. She give me couch all night long. She give me couch all night long. All right. She give me catchy. She give me catchy. All right.
Yeah, great scenes there, George, from the Almun Ecar Cup that we're fortunate enough to host every year, and obviously Vélez, a long-standing friend of the club, let's say that, obviously from down the road. But Magnus and Jesper, firstly, thank you so much for joining us here today. How are you both?
Thank you. Good, all good.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, as George said, you know, we're really excited to have you guys here today and find out a little bit more about you guys and your background. And obviously, I think the first question is why Vélez, right? It's a new program, like George said, a historic club that you guys have sort of really, changed the dynamic in the last few years. So let's start there. Why Vélez?
We get that question often.
I can imagine.
Start answering.
Yeah. No, I think to answer that question, you have to speak a little bit about the background. We have together 50 years in professional football in Scandinavia and international.
Mm-hmm.
And if I speak about myself first, my experience was I was a pro player in Sweden, made it to the national team, got my knee injured, and then I became a pro coach when I was 27, and then I worked in the big clubs in Sweden and Denmark, Malmö, Aalborg, was a player in Gothenburg, player and coach of Djurgården, just to mention a few, and then I had 3 years as a national team coach of Estonia. So 17 years as a coach, and as a coach in the national team I was working with you also.
Yep.
And now you?
Yeah, now me.
Yeah, because I used to come back to give the answer why Vélez we need a background.
No, I also have the same background. I was not a national team player. I was very good but very lazy. Lazy and wanted to decide everything. So I was probably a pain in the ass also for the coaches we had. So I started as a coach early, and then I was sport director. I also went to Brazil and tried to develop the youth academies there in the big clubs and helping them with players.
Mm-hmm. But so from all this experience for a long time, already 9 years ago, we said that this is not what we want to give to football and work with in football. We want to run a club of our own, because we believe that in all positions in professional football, it's about surviving, because the clubs are normally run by other things than the football itself.
Of course, outside factors, political
exactly,
things.
and also internal, because you want to protect your position. And we felt that we want to build a proper football club run by football people, say us, ourselves. And then it took a couple of two interesting opportunities until we tried it once in Sweden, but in Sweden you can't own a controller club totally. So then we ended up here, and then that was the background why we went into not being let's say top coaches at a high level instead of running a football club.
And so you guys kind of had a blank canvas. Obviously Vélez had a couple of seasons struggling in the Tercera, and take my hat off to you guys. You know, you've come in as obviously foreign people like myself, you know, to the football region, which sometimes is is looked at a little bit, you know, differently and things like that. You know, there's someone's uncle that's been a season ticket holder forever and all these kind of things. And the way you've kind of just revamped the club from top to bottom, I think is incredible, you know. And talk to us a little bit about that process. Did you find any speed bumps along the way? Obviously, you know, the main thing that, just from a visual perspective, there's a lot of bums on seats again. There's people coming to watch the games. And the stadium's had a revamp like you wouldn't believe. You know, now all the seats are back in, painting the wall, new pitch, things like that. Could you talk to us a little bit? How's that process been? Was it a difficult thing or something that you felt was quite seamless?
I mean, when we came in, it was all about building the organization and the structure of the club, both on the pitch, the squad and staff, but also outside. And the things that we have said all the time is doing everything step by step. And some things take more time here. I think my experience with Brazil was very good because that's even a little bit slower there. So it was that was a good experience also. But it was about building it step by step actually. That you have to just show that you are here to stay and that you work in the long term.
That's really good. Really good.
Yeah, and for me, you know, it's interesting, like you mentioned, obviously a playing and a coaching background. So how's that transition for you guys been on a personal level, you know, moving to more of a senior management role rather than actually having, an impact on the pitch, let's say?
I think it's been quite easy because it was a big decision to end a career as coaches and also move our entire family to a new country and start over. So it was a life decision and a professional decision. So I think it was quite easy, and we were that was we were looking for, to actually go into that role where it's about building structure, making things professional, recruiting the right people, and putting things together. So,
I think also we have had the same experience in other work. I mean, when we came to the national team, it was not just a team; it was also to build the structure there and help them to be professional. And also we have worked in you have been manager almost in half of the club at least, and I've been sport director. So it's not a big difference. And what we like is to create things, to build things like you do. That's what's has driven. Exactly.
Put your stamp on it, your DNA, your values, and things like that. And Max, we were talking a little bit off camera before we started the show. You know, you guys looked at various countries, not just Spain. You know, and you touched on just there that your families have come here, and it's been a big life decision. You know, so what sort of really screamed out about Spain? Obviously, we've got lots of sunshine, nice weather, but what other things sort of drew you to football here?
No, I think to start with it, for family and lifestyle, it was a big thing. That we have to say. And also the location so close to Malaga and the airport, and this mix of a real Spanish city, not very small, but average, with a lifestyle of a Spanish lifestyle, but then so close to the international hub of Malaga and all the Scandinavians in the area. So that was one thing. But then, of course, it was about the journey in football in a country like Spain to try to show that we can make a difference here. But with the experience we have from top level in Scandinavia, not in Spain, but we believe that our management, our long-term thinking will make a competitive edge at this level in Spain, where it's a lot of good players, but you can say organizations, it's a lot of changes all the time, and to give that stability, we believe that's the edge we can give, and then we believe we can have a great journey for a couple of years and to build a club, but also go up to in the league system.
Of course. And obviously, so you guys came in. I sort of remember it. You know, it was a lot of fireworks in the football landscape here. People are like, these guys are coming in, they're taking over Vélez. Vélez is going to change, and one thing that's kind of surprised me on a personal level is, you guys come from Northern Europe, have a big network there. You mentioned about international teams you've been at, but the makeup of the squad has stayed quite generally a lot of Spanish national players. You haven't brought in that many foreign players. Has there been a temptation to try and bring in more foreign players, or what's the thinking behind the recruitment?
I think when we came in, we were called the Locos Suecos because we took away the team that was here, and we said we will be the second team in Malaga in a couple of years, and it took 1 year. But everybody was saying we were crazy in the beginning, and this. But we have the idea. Of course, we built a fantastic scouting organization, and that's why we are there. We are. But of course, you always try to look for other players nearby in Vélez. And then you expand in Malaga region, and then you have to expand. And of course, in the beginning, to put more players that are familiar to the way of playing, to the lifestyle, to the food, to the way of living, it's much easier to get results. And then when you have to add, then you can start to add things. But build the foundation first, like in everything. You have to really build the foundation, and I think you should do that with the local players first.
And to add in on that also, you can say, like Jesper said, we built very early a big scouting organization. We have been around 40 people in that organization with data, video, and live scouting. And there you can say in the beginning, since we had that capacity almost like a La Liga club, or like a La Liga club, we were looking in Spain, but also in many countries, because we were able to.
Sure.
But to be honest, now we have more going back to see how can we, for example, now this year, how can we know every player in Segunda Ref of 90 teams? If we are good there, the adaptation will be very, very quick, and if they play in group 4 or 5, which in the south, it will be even easier. So then, of course, we can still find a player in Croatia or whatever but if we find a player here, we will go for the player here.
And then maybe we've played at some of the stadiums you're going to visit and got that first-hand experience, which can give you the advantage. You said there, build a project for a good few years. Is the goals sound very footballing, similar to us, we're football romantics, and we're kind of thinking all the time on the pitch. Is there a business angle to what you guys see? Is it to get the club promoted a few years, sell the club to someone else, it to be profitable? Is it just see where it goes? What kind of idea do you have medium to longer term, with yourselves personally and also with Vélez CF?
I mean, we want to create a sustainable club, and that means we have to sell players, because that's the only way that you as a club can be sustainable and have good results also on the sports side over time. So of course, but this is a lifetime. We don't want to call it a project. Everybody says that, and we also at times, but because a project has a start date and an end date. We don't have an end date.
Fantastic.
We move the families here, and it's for our lives. And we hope that it will be like that. Which is one of the reasons also that we didn't continue as coaches, because there you are 1.5 years, 2 years, and move around. This was a choice of a lifestyle.
It's amazing.
So for us, it's more about building this step by step, and if you do it very, very good, and you do the organization, you have the foundation, and you think in long term, then the result on the sports side will come naturally.
For sure.
And from my, we touched on the recruitment in terms of on the playing side, but when you're building an infrastructure and working towards the goals that you guys are working towards, I think one of the biggest challenges is finding good people that share the same values and whatnot, in what you're trying to achieve. So how do you approach that in terms of finding people who have the qualities that you look for in not just necessarily people, but, the backroom staff and the general infrastructure? What qualities do you look for in people to get involved with Vélez?
No, so far one thing has been to be fluent in both Spanish and English has been important, because we are not fluent in. We understand Spanish fully now, or almost fully, but we don't speak well enough. You are better than me because you have the Portuguese also. But so that has been important. But also since we have our Vélez Malaga Football University next to the club also. Where we have an international approach for players and professionals, so it has been important to have the bilingual with Spanish and English. So that is one important thing. Then of course to have very hardworking people with good education, and that are ready to work in a, let's say, in a modern data-driven way. But let's say, that are like to be in a place where there's a lot of information coming in, and then being good enough to, of
Dissect
course,
it.
to be selective in how to use that information. So I think that the dedication, ambition, together with English and being interested in to develop things, that's
nice.
the kind of people we want around.
And so obviously you guys have seen inside the elite levels, both as players, coaches, sporting director roles. How have you seen the level that we have here in Tercera and Segunda Ref compared to the background where you've been, and where would you sit it in your, where you're coming from and things like that?
No, I mean, always when you come to a new place, you fall in love, because you think it's maybe better than it is.
That's interesting.
That has been everywhere I've gone. It's the same.
Yeah.
I should say that the level of the play technically is very, very good, and they are also tactically good, but it's a little bit different on how we work in Scandinavia, for example. But a good level, it's not yet the top level, of course, where we are right now. But the players are dedicated, very, how do you say that? They are very interacting and very, very interested in learning. So I think it's a very good people to work with.
Yeah.
How have you guys adapted? Myself, speaking from my own experience coming to Spanish football, there's a lot of, sometimes you'll play, a team will get 1-0 up at half time, and the second half you'll barely play a minute. People on the floor, substitutions, crowd trouble. How do you guys adapt to that and not get frustrated with the different football culture that we have here in Spain?
Yeah, I can say from I mean, again, Brazil was much worse. But of course, in Sweden, if you fall down, then you will freeze to death. But it's true. So you have to run all the time. But in Brazil or here, if it's 50 degrees down there, of course, you have to lay a little bit more, because otherwise you will die of heat. So that also affects the culture, I think. Of course, we have had moments where we have been frustrated because if you're one down and they just do it, or the different way of giving away the ball when you have a free kick, stuff like that. But I mean, we are not here to change Spain or the culture here. We are here to adapt to that and take the good things we have with us to implement there, and then do something even better. So
like
we cannot. We have to try to get
learn to deal with it.
No, and one thing that is that we didn't expect. We analyzed Segunda Ref before we went up, but that it was still not expected that the league is so physical comparing to Tercera. It's completely different. Where it's more reminding in some ways about what we are used to in the second division in Sweden, for example. A lot the games are decided by second ball play and set pieces. That was not the case in Tercera. Tercera was much more, some teams tried to play possession, a few was like that, but it was much more open, and the physical demands was much less than Segunda Ref. A big difference.
Very interesting. And so for Malaga City, obviously, we've been on sort of a meteoric rise locally with just sort of a lot of humble, hard work and a young group of players. We don't have a expansive playing budget or anything like that. We're coming out of now regional football into what they call a national level in Tercera Ref. What do you see that would be key, if you could take some key takeaways from us that you learned from your, end up being one season, what would you give to us to try and help us on this new journey?
No, I think that, it's hard to say. Because we came in and we recruited players that has been in the top and has won the league many times. That was one of the things when we recruited, because if we get a lot of winners in that are used to win this league, the probability will be to win it. But it's many of the teams are training at night and are semi-professionals, and that of course, if you can get the trainings and the load of training and the rest then you have won a lot. I think that is the huge difference that you can make, and then it's about to just have a team that works.
Hopefully we can find a few lone players from you guys that need some extra minutes.
But no, one of the questions myself and George always ask, whoever it is on the show that's had some form of success is like, How do you approach goal setting, or in terms of you guys are obviously not satisfied with where you are at the minute. There's big plans for the club and what you want to achieve. So how do you approach that? Is it on a 5-year scale? Is there the smaller objectives that you want to meet beforehand? How do you kind of approach planning for the future?
Yeah, I mean, now we pointed out that our ambition is to, in 5 years, be in Segunda División, which is really ambitious. That is more the vision, or not the vision, because that's longer. But I mean, it's a
mission
5.
Statement.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more to get the direction that then we have to put certain demands every day.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's been like Jesper said, it's about building an organization with the right people that every day wants to be better and then to try to win the next game. That is more the motto that we have had since day one, which goes hand in hand with this, how we build everything step by step. So it sounds boring, but with the direction and this dedication every day, that's how we go at it.
A dream with a plan.
But I mean, that's also a culture thing again, because we have never spoken about goals like that, because it depends on many other things. But in this culture, sometimes you have to show where you are going, because you have to have more people on board on this journey, and then you have to show them, okay, we are here now. We were there. We are here. We want to reach here. But that in the beginning we never said where we want to go.
No.
We were more about, this is the work we do. If we do this good, we will end up, the result will be, but we never said we want to go. But we had to adapt to that also, to the culture, and now we are more open with what we want to achieve.
With a personal question, I'm putting you guys on the spot. Coming in, obviously, new owners in a new country. Did you expect to gain promotion in the first hit out in Tercera? Was that something that you guys spoke between yourselves that we will achieve this? I'm pretty confident, or was it a nice result to come at the end of such a remarkable start?
I think that the way we scouted, we were very late when we came, so we only had 4 or 5 weeks to put the team together. But the fact that we wanted to pick winners, and also knew that if we have good in the autumn. In the winter window, we can put the 2-3 players in and go for it. So of course it was for us a goal realistic. That we had, and realistic that we had that, but we couldn't start to talk about that because it was a team that was almost going down and saved by the COVID.
Yeah, literally.
So of course, and we changed all the team. We didn't keep the players, and so of course, but again, building it in the right way and try to be smart there, who you take into the club, and make it professional. Training during the days, be professional. Then of course it's easier to achieve that.
Absolutely fantastic.
And just last one for me, because I'm sure we could sit here and speak forever. But you guys mentioned there you're obviously very experienced in your footballing backgrounds, respectively. And you mentioned you had ideas going in and philosophy that you wanted to create in your infrastructure. How much of that is still the same today, and how much is adaptive to the challenges of what the season presents? You mentioned COVID was a big player in that. Next year, obviously, you're going into it with a different mindset. So how much each season do you approach is different to what you did the season before?
No, I think it's the football we want to play, the way we want to organize ourselves, the focus on the scouting, that has been like key factor. I think that all this is almost the same, like when we started to sketch on this 10 years ago, that this is what we want to do. Then you can say there are always you have to review all the time, and there are small changes and details, like I mentioned with the scouting there, where we actually went big, and then we now back to more focus. But in general, I would say that the football, the organization, the structure is the same.
And I can say outside also, we had the idea of course, keep all the people that was working in the club, or working but around the club, keep them and then add things. And of course we add more things each year because we need this and this. And running a football club is not only the first, it's so many things, as you know, that comes with it. So of course it's other things you have to deal with that you didn't have in the plan, but that you have to adapt to.
Well, huge thank you from myself. It was amazing to firstly have your time to have it with us, and some really incredible insight. I think people will love hearing this interview, and I think best of luck in the future to get to second division. I would love to see it personally, and there's going to be a long road to get there with lots of ups and downs, and I hope this season can be a really positive one and go on from the narrow miss on the playoffs last year.
Yeah, obviously, a little bit of a different perspective now coming from our next guest. Aaron is someone that obviously, George, you know on a personal level now, but the current captain of the England beach soccer team. So really excited to get his thoughts and learn a little bit more about him.
Can't wait.
Most people will see a football. I see more than that. I saw a dream, an opportunity, a way out. It's all I ever wanted to do. I'd spend any free time, day or night, on the pitch, training as hard as I possibly could. I never thought my dream would come to life. Then I found beach soccer. After 7 years of hard work, I am now an international beach soccer player. I've scored the most goals for England, travelled the world and battled against the best, playing for Barcelona, Arsenal and Levante. Beach soccer may not have always been my plan, but believe me, I'm living my dream. Never stop believing.
Great video, and a guest I've been super excited to get on ever since we invited him. I've been speaking a lot with Aaron, getting involved myself this summer with beach soccer and learning more about the sport. I think no one better than an ambassador of the sport, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it's something that you two are a lot more equipped in terms of the beach football side to speak about. But Aaron, before we go into that, I really want to sort of go in a little bit to your story as a whole, get an idea of who Aaron Clark is as a person. And then also your role now at a Premier League club in Arsenal, such an important role at, an important age in the academy system.
And one of the best academies historically as well, a club that puts a lot into youth development and bringing through young players. And it'd be great to hear a little bit more about who is Aaron Clark.
Well, I think you saw from the video before as well that I started playing football. I always wanted to be a footballer. That was my dream, to be a footballer. Yeah. Luckily, I had a football pitch, a concrete football pitch and a cage that was literally a stone throw away from where I grew up. Yeah. And I was there. I spent most of my days there. I wanted to be a football player. That didn't happen. Yeah. And I fell into beach football later at 21, which now has been amazing, and I wouldn't change that for the rest of my life. I love what I do, and I think it's something that I really want to change or give to the next generation, where I would love the next generation to understand there is a different pathway into football, whether that's futsal, whether that's beach soccer, but there's a beautiful career that you can have within the game as well. And then when I was 17, I got involved in Arsenal, first of all with the soccer schools, so travelling around teaching kids internationally, but also teaching coaches internationally. And then at 18, I was asked to go into the academy, which was, again, a dream job. And that sort of took my eye off of football, and I sort of fell out of love with football at around 18. And then I focused on coaching for the next 3 years. I sort of dabbled into semi-professional football, which I'm sure we'll go into. But I was much more focused on coaching, if I'm honest. And at 21, I got the opportunity to play beach football. We were like an open trial for England, never played on sand before. Really, really loved it. The old manager, Terry, invited me down, and I really enjoyed it. And then I trained really hard in a volleyball pitch in the middle of London, because there's not much sand. There's not many beaches in England or in London. And I sort of learnt my craft in a volleyball pitch. And then 10 years now, it's 10 years this year, I'm the England captain. I've played loads of caps for England and represented loads of clubs, and I love it. I've travelled the world, and I wouldn't change it.
I think you've been a little bit humble there as well. Obviously, you're renowned and known as one of the top players in the world. Always in the top 50, if not higher. And I think to go, like you say, from someone you see a lot of the main players they grew up on the beaches in Brazil, whatever. You've grown up in a city environment to get such a high level and such a high talent and be recognised by your peers. I mean, huge credit and a massive achievement. I don't think you should ever undersell that. But there's so much from what you've just said to go into. But one thing I'd love to talk about there is you said you were coaching prospective coaches at such a young age. What does that say about your character? And what challenges did you find? Obviously, I'm assuming that the coaches you were delivering the sessions to were older than yourself. And so you're trying to get across a message, but also get that authority when maybe they're not respecting you because you're younger and things like that.
Yeah, it was tough because first of all, there's a language barrier and you're going across the world. You know, I went to Japan, Egypt, all of these different countries, and I'm coaching coaches who, you're right, they weren't just older than me. Some of them were double, some of them were triple my age. You know, I'm 17 years old and I'm going to teach a 40-year-old how to coach.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I'd never come across anyone who was negative. Most people who I was in an environment of coaching with, they were humble, they wanted to learn, they was willing to take on my feedback.
Yeah.
I'm quite a confident person, but I also would like to say I'm passionate of helping people regardless of what that is. So I didn't see it as an ego point of view of that, oh, you know, these guys are older than me and I'm teaching them something. I just found it that I've played football for all my life, and I think sometimes, even from a coaching point of view, if you can play, that definitely helps.
Demonstrations, things
and
like that.
demonstrations, I think, speak a thousand words. So going out there to Japan and all these countries, people just really took me on and listened to me, and the truth is I'd learn from them as well. So I think it was a bit of both. Even though I was the one going out there to teach them, I learned so much off of them as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and you've been here for a few days now. You've got to see a little bit of the facilities and the goings on here at Malaga City. But I'm sure that's nothing on working at a Premier League club like Arsenal, where George says, you've had so many superstars come through the academy system now. So, it's very, very competitive, the coaching space in general. But to work at such a prestigious club, what's that like on a day-to-day basis? And do you get moments still now where you have to pinch yourself a little bit, especially when you see these guys you mentioned? Off camera, Saka, who's had an astronomical rise, now go on to do such great things, and you've had played a little role in that as well. So how does that feel for you? Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, to be involved in a Premier League club, when I was 18 years old at academy level, and it's very similar. Like we just spoke about the age. The other side of it is, I was an 18-year-old boy coaching 13, 14-year-old kids. Now. That's only 3 or 4 years different. These kids are going to potentially be in the Premier League or La Liga, wherever they may be. That was tough because there's only a 3 or 4 year gap. So to coach them boys at academy level, and they're the elite of the elite back then as well. But I was very, very lucky, and I've been very fortunate to work with some incredible coaches. And I learned a lot, and I've said this to George a lot of times. Coaching made me a better football player because at 18, I've said to you before, I weren't involved in any academy level playing. I always considered myself as a good player. I played county level, but I didn't play academy level. So going into Arsenal, learning things at 18 years old, like little things like learning safe side, receiving the ball back foot, small details that make a massive difference on a football pitch. That made my football, made me a better football player. So going in there and learning off of coaches, I was not only becoming a better coach, I was also becoming a better football player at the same time. And it is... I never went in there and I did pinch myself. There was times where I'm setting up and I'm looking at these beautiful facilities, or we've got a beautiful dome, and I look and think, wow, what an experience to have as an 18-year-old kid, because I was a baby, I was a kid in coaching. But that also worked, I think, wonders for me, because I was so young. The older coaches who have been around for years and years, they saw me as I don't think they ever saw me as a threat. They saw me as someone who was almost like an apprentice. And I was just lapping up, every time I went in there, I was lapping up loads of information and soaking information, and it was an education for me. And I'm lucky to be there. I've been at Arsenal now for, next year will be my 13th year, and I've worked with some incredible people. And now, because I call it a 10-year cycle. So you mentioned Bukayo, for example. When Bukayo was 9, and now he's older than 19, but in 10 years, the information that I've got over them 10 years, I make better decisions.
Of course.
Because now I've seen the process, and really I start looking at it as, now I'm only starting my coaching career now, because I've done my craft over 10 years, and I've learned it, so now I can really start making better decisions.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and one thing, just a great little nugget there that I just want to go into very briefly is, like, George, you're a bit opposite to that. You went into coaching after your playing career, and Aaron touched on there, obviously going into it at such a young age. Would you advise, players coming through now, when they sort of reach that 16, 17, 18, to get that experience? Do you think it's important that they have that kind of knowledge and appreciation for that side of the game?
I mean, when you do your scholarship, I think you do the level 1 or level 2 coaching badge, but they kind of scribble out what you fill in the book quite quickly, and people aren't taking it that kind of serious. It's like, this is my plan B, if it doesn't work out, but obviously, I'm going to be be a pro. And I think it wasn't until I did my sort of UEFA B licence and thing, I did that alongside, but I was still playing at the same time. And I couldn't agree more. I think what you said there about made you a better player, it got you thinking more, and it also not only make you maybe understand the game better or get you thinking about it a different way, it also gave you more empathy with the coaches. That, okay, it's not that easy to run this session, so how you become as a student of the game, you change as well, so you actually take on more information. I think before you do your badges, you just turn up, and if you want to carry on playing two-touch or doing a rondo or football, tennis, and the coaches are trying to get on with the session and things, you didn't appreciate how disruptive that could maybe be, just as one little example. And I think players should massively be encouraged to take on more part of their learn. I think a modern footballer is now, sometimes we try and get our guys at Academy to cut their own videos, to do some of their own analysis and take, responsibility for their reflective part of their game. But I still think it's a part that could be way more emphasised.
And that links in a bit to your story, Aaron, because, you work at a club like Arsenal, and everybody's under the assumption, if you're at Arsenal from, 16 years onwards, that you're going to live this dream life, end up being a professional footballer and live happily ever after. I think what your story talks about more is the importance in diversifying almost and being open to other opportunities, When you work with a lot of players, no doubt that, unfortunately the dream doesn't materialise or work out with. So how do you see that, that responsibility for young people, once they've, been released by a club like Arsenal, to then go on or stay, interested in the game, because a lot lose interest, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to go back on the point that you made, George, as well. I think the main thing is the why, and the one big thing that I'd love to speak to like your boys about, or get across to your boys, is don't be scared to ask questions, because I think the first process of learning anything is learning it and getting taught it. Yeah. But I believe that if you can teach it to someone, you know it. Yeah. Because it's taking it in, and then if you can teach it to someone else, that means it's now within you. You now know that, and that's empowering. Exactly. But it's the why. So if a coach is asking you to do something, always feel that you can go and ask that coach and know why. Because if you know the why, it makes it so much more translatable to the actual game of what you're doing. Definitely. And I think that goes with coaching as well. If you can teach it to other kids, you can put it into your game as a football player. Yeah. But yeah, going back to what you said, James, I think at the end of the video that you just saw at the start, I speak about something called never give up. And I know that's a phrase that's thrown around like in a motivational video and stuff like that. But it's something I really believe, and I actually believe that everything happens twice. I think one it happens in your mind, and then the next, I think it happens in reality if you really believe it. And I grew up, like I said, playing lots of cage football in London. Yeah. And the one thing that gave me is there was no rules. Yeah. It was very, very unstructured football. No blood, you were playing it, and you couldn't, there was no excuses. You had to play with kids who were 5 years older than you, 2 years younger than you. And the truth is you had to deal with it. I dealt with that football better than I dealt with structured football and organised football, because I don't want to say I got a lot of pressure, but when I was younger, there wasn't that many scouts around as there is now. There's so many scouts that go to grassroots games and stuff like that. And now we believe that there's a statistic that says every kid will get seen at least once. Right. Whereas when we was younger, that wasn't the case. No way. Interesting. And when I was younger, a lot of people threw it around to me that, I was little, I was small and stuff like that, which to some extent fair, I was smaller, but I used that as an excuse. And through my career, I didn't play academy level. I went to semi-pro, and I was small as well. And they wanted me to play centre midfield, and the football weren't pretty. It was constant heading, and when I made a header, I would get praise. And I thought, hold on a minute, that's not my forte. My strength isn't heading, but when I header a ball, whether it goes to my teammate or not, I'm getting praised by the coach. And I looked at that, and I probably, until I got to beach football, I always thought I had a strong mentality. But the truth is, I wasn't accountable. And that's the truth. I wasn't accountable with my own actions. I worked extremely hard, and I will still always work hard. I always want to be one of the hardest person in the room. Yeah. However, when it comes to accountability, and I look back on my career as a youngster, when people started feeding me things like, oh, it's okay because you're too small, I lapped it up.
Bought into it a bit.
And I bought into it too much. And the one thing I would say to the younger kids these days is that never give up, but be accountable. Yeah. If you've made mistakes, or don't give yourself excuses, and be accountable for your own actions, because it's okay. And when I went into beach soccer, I went into a mentality where at 21 years old, I was playing for the national team. And that was incredible, because I've had no academy level football. Yeah. It doesn't normally happen, not at 21. And I sort of went in with a mentality that well, this is just beach football. It's not
Yeah.
normal football. So my mentality was street football.
Yeah.
That's how I went into it. And because I went into beach football with that mentality, it allowed me to blossom quicker
Yeah.
because I'm playing again. I made my debut against Portugal, and I'm looking over at some of the world's best. Like there's a guy called Majer who's known as one of the best. I mean, he's put on a pedestal with Cristiano Ronaldo
Yeah.
of the beach soccer world.
Yeah.
And I'm looking across the pitch at him and thinking, this is beach football. It's nothing.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, I'm still going to be able to match you. And because that was my mentality, within 2 years I was able to be known as one of the world's best. And I think it's just, I always had that mentality when I was younger,
Yeah.
but it was that switch of not being accountable.
Definitely.
And by having that accountability, and I think that comes from coaching as well, from when I got into coaching at 18, that gave me that, and I was able to then really, really push and work hard. And we're always going to make mistakes.
Of course.
And we're always going to be able to do things that are better. But it's, again, having that accountability, and that made me a better player.
That's huge. Really
Yeah.
powerful.
You know, for a player that's such as yourself, though, you just mentioned it there, how does it feel to represent your country at any level, you know, and captain him at that? I mean, you know, we all dream of it. We've all been in there in the mirror in the strip one day and wishing, but very few of us get to experience it in reality. So how is that?
Yeah, I have to pinch myself. I mean, I'd be lying if you can't play it down, and there's no way to
hide
say it.
from it.
And to be fair, I don't think I've ever said this before, but when I said we went to Thailand on my debut, and the whole, because it is beach football, you're travelling away to a different country. So getting on a plane, you're wearing the England kit. You know, I remember getting my England kit given to me as a training kit, and you're looking at this. And in front of the boys, you're acting all cool and you're acting like this is really, really
Inside,
nice.
yeah.
But the truth is, when everyone's away and you're in that change room and it's just you and your kit, you're staring at the England logo, at the Three Lions badge, thinking,
Yeah.
my dreams come true. And every hour, every sacrifice, every party you miss, whatever it may have been, was worth it for just looking at the England kit. And, you know, to still be able to do that now. And I've never said this, but when we went to Thailand, I've always knew the England national anthem. Some people pretend not to know it, and standing there wearing the England kit first of all, and you're so proud. And it wasn't even in a packed stadium, but you hear that national anthem come, and it really gives me goosebumps. And tears started coming down in my eyes because it was just the feeling that you are representing your country.
Of course.
I can't put it into words for you. And then on that game, I was lucky enough to score my first goal, and the overwhelming feeling of it was a free kick, and I still remember it now, where the ball hit the sand. It wasn't like this beautiful goal where it goes into the top corner. I'd be lying. It was a scrappy goal. The ball hit the sand, and playing beach football, that's the beauty of playing on the sand, because when the ball hits the sand, it's so difficult for the goalkeeper. Bounced and went in against a goalkeeper that was known as one of the best with Portugal. And I started welling up. You know, all the boys are coming to me, jumping on me, congratulating me, celebrating. But the truth is, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And even after, the boys, after celebrating, I think time stood still.
Yeah.
What was probably 10 seconds felt like a year. And they went back to sort of like set up for kickoff.
Yeah.
And I'm there and I don't know whether I'm running forwards or backwards, and I don't know, I lost complete orientation of the pitch. So yeah, it's a long explanation of what it feels like to play for your country. But
It's pretty good.
But honestly,
I mean, the England national team on the 11 side aren't doing too well at the minute. I scored a few nice goals toward the end of the season. So, Gareth, if you're watching, I'm available for November.
I think, you know, so you're seeing all these top young guys. Obviously, you spoke about your story about how it didn't work out, how you kind of wanted. But a question for me, putting you under a little bit of fire, was on the script that we've got here. What do you do as working that 15-16 bracket? Obviously, that's kind of a real pivotal phase where they're going to get maybe a scholar, maybe going to get a lot of things coming to them very quickly. It's where the England underage teams start picking up, you know, for certain players. Have you ever had a scenario, without obviously going into any names, details whatsoever, but have you had a player that you really rated and you fancied and didn't maybe get the recognition at the club that you felt? And obviously the superiors and the people that were taking him on next, the player didn't get signed. How does that leave you as maybe a coach that's worked with that player for maybe 2-3 years?
yeah, it's tough, and I think that's football. That's almost the beauty of football, because
it's opinions.
It's opinions. It's subjective, you know. And you know, at big clubs, we're fortunate enough to have loads of people who have had great experience, and they're in them. You know, senior management are in that role for that purpose. But you can only give your opinion. And the one thing I would say to all of the boys, especially being at Arsenal or any of the big clubs, you're at you should be at the top of the tree. And there's loads of other clubs that you can go to. And because it is, and it's going back into that mentality that I tapped into when I was 21, 22, but I didn't have when I was a youngster.
Yeah.
As a kid, it's really, really difficult to understand that someone is telling you you're not going to get a scholarship, you're not going to get a contract, because this boyhood club that you love and you're representing the badge and you love it is being telling you you're not good enough, you need to go. And that's where I think you need good people around you and good advice to say, it's just an opinion. And I know that's really, really easy for me to turn around and say, but it's the truth. That is just an opinion. And what I would say is never give up, because make sure you go to, whether it's the next team, and you might not be right for the next team, or you might not be right for the next team, but you have to keep going, you have to trust your ability, and you have to believe in yourself. Because there is so many, and even like what you're doing over here, coming to see it, it's incredible. And every journey is different. No journey is the same. You can't compare anyone else. And you talk about the England team, Harry Kane being the captain and one of the best, who was at Arsenal as a youngster and then got released to go. If he didn't get released, it doesn't mean Harry Kane would be Harry Kane now. If he was at Arsenal for the rest of his career, we may never know who Harry Kane was. But at that moment, that release made him a stronger person, whether that's physically, mentally, exactly. Every journey is different, so.
Yeah, and you know, I have a lot of mates that are at professional clubs or have been released and things, and on the flip side of what you just said, you know, players who you might think are good enough but don't make it, there's a lot of players that, you know, speaking with friends, players that do make it, and at the time in the youth team or whether it's at scholar age, whatever the case may be, you know, they say, oh, he wasn't that great then, but this, and you mentioned, Aaron, in your story, you know, you've been very lucky. I'm a personal believer that you kind of make your own luck, right? And the players that, you know, you might not have rated, somebody took a gamble on them, and you don't reach that elite level without having something about you. You know, you've got to be very, you know, flexible in terms of, like you say, you're going to get people that feed you different stuff, maybe people that don't rate you, new managers, new settings and so on. What's your take on that, George?
I think for me, and that's another one when you start doing your coaching licenses and go the other side of the white line, I think when you're a player and you sit in dressing rooms, or maybe you're in a reserve team or a youth team, and one player, they come and do the knock on the door, you know, you're coming with the first team today and thinking, why him, not me, you know, play the same position as me, you know, I'm way better than him, I'm lifting more in the gym, I'm fasting, whatever. And then when you become a coach, massive thing I learned in the first few years, and I'm still very much in, you know, my start my journey as a coach, I consider myself that anyway, you know, but I found that you have players and you've got your 25 players or whatever, maybe, you know, your best player in all the training, you're not playing, and people say, you're crazy, why he's not playing? But it comes down to trust and loyalty, and that you can trust the player with that talent to carry out what the team needs. And so much I've seen when I've been now coaching, you know, senior level players for 5-6 years, you've had really good players that as soon as they're on the pitch, they don't want to do what you want to do, or the team needs, they want to play their game. And that doesn't help anyone, you know? And so they're not loyal to first of all, the badge they're wearing, they're not loyal to their teammates in the dressing room with, and obviously finally they're not loyal to the coaching staff as asking them. And I think trust and loyalty is the two biggest things. That is why when you see those players, and we won't
drop any names,
but you see this Premier League player and someone says, how has he played in the Premier League? How has he done that? How has he gone on to play for England? Well, that's why, because he can be trusted to do a job that he's asked to do, and he's loyal to the people that's around him in his community. And I think for me that's two key factors.
So sort of, you know, wrapping up, Aaron, in terms of, you know, your journey, you're on, you know, a pivotal stage really in your life, in your career. You know, you've got a lot going for you, obviously on the beach soccer front, but obviously on the coaching front as well. So what does the future hold in store for you? You know, is it to keep, you know, promoting the game of beach soccer? Do you think your future lies more so in the coaching game? What's ahead for you?
I'd love to give you a straight answer with that, but the truth is I don't know. I definitely, like I said earlier, I want to create something culturally in England that gives, and not just in England, but everywhere, that creates pathways for children who want to go into or make a career of beach soccer, or whether that is, whatever football that is, whether that's the 11-a-side game, whether that's the 5-a-side game, but just to give them a good life, to say that there is still something out there. There's something out there, and it's still an amazing career. You know, for me to sit here and say I'm representing my country at beach soccer and it's not a good career, I'd be lying. So, and to ask kids to go into that, they'd have an amazing experience, and they're only going to become better footballers. But I think with coaching, I'm still young, and as I said, I see it as my career's only starting. I'm still learning and being, I believe when you're with different age groups as well, like I have done over 12 years, you pick up different things. Like I've worked with 7-a-side, 8-a-side, 9-a-side, 11-a-side, and there's always something new to learn. And I think now my desire to succeed is bigger than my fear of failure. And when I was younger, I was scared to fail, and that's the truth. And that's why when it goes back to being accountable, all of the kids that you've got in your academy, or whether you're watching this from a different academy, it's about not worrying about failing. And I think we don't speak about that word failure enough. Everyone does it.
Yeah.
No matter what you're going to do, from a child to an adult, everyone is going to fail.
Yeah.
And it's about how you react to that.
Definitely.
And I think by having good people around you and by having good advice, you should never stop doing anything because the fear of failure. And when the need to succeed is bigger than the fear of failure, which I now believe that I've got to that point of my career where even if I make mistakes or I fail, I'll keep going until I do it. That is where you get to a point where you're only going in the right direction, is what I believe.
Yeah, and very, very briefly, you know, for those that want to follow along on your journey, you put out some amazing content, but where can people find your stuff?
I do a lot of stuff on TikTok. I've got quite a following on TikTok, so I try to make it quite fun. What I like about TikTok is sometimes Instagram can be like their best lives, and everyone's putting out this is my reality, the best version of me. What I like about TikTok, it can be quite...
a few dances on there?
Yeah, I'll do a little bit of dancing, yeah. I've got a bit of rhythm I fancy myself. No, I'm joking. No, but yeah, TikTok, you can probably find me. On Instagram, you can find me as well.
That's awesome.
Well,
I want to ask a personal one from me. Obviously, you know, we're all find identity within ourselves. Obviously, you've been at Arsenal for a long time, but also now the England captain for such a long period, and obviously you're a top player. Where do you see yourself, or what will your future look like when you're not playing? You know, you've got quite a while. Like in beach soccer, they go for quite a while. You keep yourself very trim and fit, but say when you know that does come to that day where you're not feeling you can contribute what you want, or you can't play anymore. Will you stay involved in the sport as an ambassador, or do you think you'll go back more into the 11-a-side game?
The truth is, I don't know. I'd love to. I don't think I'll ever be out of beach soccer.
Okay.
I'd love to have some sort of involvement in the game. Now, whether I have the opportunity when I decide to leave as a player or retire as a player, and I have an opportunity to go into coaching or managing, I'll decide that when I get there. But I'd love to. I'll always support, you know, the youngsters and the England team, or just the game of beach soccer, because I believe it's a beautiful game. I really believe that there's so much ability to grow, and I believe that by playing beach soccer, by playing small-sided football, and by playing football, you become a better footballer overall. And I believe if we can mix all them three together, football is always going to be the winner, the dominant sport. And I believe if we can get that worldwide, not just sort of like in South America or even in the hot countries in Europe, I believe you become a better football player.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, amazing story there, and I know you know, some great insights there for the academy boys. But so thank you first and foremost, Aaron, for your time. But George, we've got someone that's a little bit closer to home next. You know, someone who you've known for a variety of years, and you know, really excited to have Alvaro on the show also.
No, I think, you know, Alvaro's obviously been an integral part to where we're sat right now, where this club is, where this project is, and most of all from a human standpoint, one of the best people I've ever met. I mean, he's had every role I think there has been at the club, and I'm excited to see his English more than anything.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, obviously it's a milestone year for us, entering the 5th year of the project. We started in 2013, and we've been learning ever since. You know, if someone was going to ask me what's new, what's got different, what have you made better, what have you improved, for me it's easy. Every year has been an evolution. You know, we're never happy staying still, and even when the players start, you know, we've had a lot of success with 18 players in the last 2 seasons going to clubs. It's not time to get the slippers on and put your feet up with a cup of tea. You know, we're looking to be even better. You know, so that's not only with bringing on Malaga City, but now with us having a bigger reputation and also more experience in what we're doing, helping place these guys into football clubs. You know, because ultimately the guys aren't here for a holiday. You know, we're here to make them better people first of all, but also better footballers, and try and see what they can achieve with the Spanish football clubs.
I think it's probably one of the most challenging academies I've been in.
Training's much tougher
There's more competition here. Teams are harder to play.
It's a lot different. Like normally in the States we just train 2 to 3 times a week, and we're not all connected outside of playing football. We're just kind of on our own. But here we're all like one big family and train every day together.
It's good weather, good pitch, good facilities. It's pretty sick.
The lads bring quality. The environment's unbelievable.
I feel like this is the perfect experience for those players who want to just get better.
I'm really excited for this season. The boys are doing really well. It's gonna be a good year.
I hope that everyone enjoy working hard with us, and good luck for everyone. I hope that we can get your objective or your dreams, but we have to work hard.
Wow, a bit of a throwback there for everyone, you know, a young-looking George
Some
Jeremy.
retro shots. I think I've done okay there. Not too bad.
Yeah, and one person that's definitely not changed from that video is Alvaro Arias. And Alvaro, thank you so much for being with us today. You know, how does it feel looking back on a video like that? You know, thinking, you know, what's that? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, potentially.
More, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you to ask to come here. It's a pleasure to be in the club. I didn't be here, so it's a pleasure to be in this part of the program of our system. So what I think every time that I see some old videos is a huge proud. I feel very proud of everything because there is a lot of work behind everything, behind every. So I can remember every video. I can remember that I was behind, maybe doing another thing, something like that. So just the word that I have to say is proud. I'm very proud because we put a lot of work and sometimes you work hard and you don't get the results.
Yeah.
But in this case, so far, we are very happy because we are growing a lot.
Yeah. And I think we've got a lot of questions here and a lot of things planned, but I've got a personal question for you. And obviously, you're a very special person in my life, not just in the academy. And I remember when we sat down, obviously, I think it was over a plate of pasta in New Zealand. And we spoke about coming back from New Zealand. We'd gone away travelling together, and you were trying to play some football there really successfully. And we spoke about when you come back, what were you going to do, because you weren't working in football at the time. And I remember, you know, almost 10 years ago, and your family was worried, what is Malaga City? You know, is this something? I think you had a different career at the time. And what made you believe in the project? What made you want to come in and change your whole life, you know, to begin working with your passion of football?
Yeah, so basically the culture in Spain was 10 years ago was not ready for my family, for the culture for my family to think about that I can work in my passion or I can work in something that I love. Before, me and my family saw the football sport like a hobby, but in New Zealand, with a lot talk together with George, and I started to see the view of football with other perspective. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. I struggle with that.
And then I started to really understand that I can work in my passion and we can do big things together. So when we came to Spain, we start to work for it, and
here we are.
Like I say, here.
Yeah, and that's just something that is really interesting to me because I've been at the club now for just over 2 years, and I came in at a very privileged point, you know, where the club was already so big, so many things happening. But some of the stories when I speak to you guys about the beginning of the club, I mean, you guys have had more jobs within Malaga City. So, Alvaro, give the people an idea how your role has changed within the club from the first day with Malaga City, obviously, to now.
So basically, you can tell me every roles that exist, and I can tell you that someday I did. So, and that is true, and everyone can tell you. Even now, that maybe I don't have to do some things, but sometimes I do it because if someone is doing something with the clothes or something like that, I like to help because I did before, and I know that any help is good. So I try to be involved in every part, but unfortunately or fortunately, I cannot be in every part of the world.
Yeah, of the club now. Yeah. And George, you maybe just touch on that as well, the crazy stories between you guys when you first started.
No, I think obviously everything has to start somewhere, and things have to grow. And I think for me to have you as the last guest is the most fitting thing. It's a shame, Adrian Dominguez can't be here as well. A shout out to him. He's obviously a recent father. He was due to be on this segment as well. But I mean, people don't realise now. You see, close to 50 people working, and 10 different teams, big stadiums, and professional leagues that we're now involved in. There was the three of us. So there was George, Adrian, and Alvaro.
Three musketeers.
And we did. We picked the players up from the airport. We made sure they had their meals. We washed the training kit after training. There was one summer we got a new apartment block, which was an upgrade back at the time for the boys to live, and we painted every room ourselves.
Wow.
We stayed working.
And also we put our teachers in the screen. Like how you say?
Yeah. We framed the shirts. We put all the framed shirts.
I remember once that I think Shem, that was a player in that time. He told me like, Alvaro, basically, what are you doing? Because he saw me. I picked him for the airport. I dropped in the flat that they was living. Next day, I was with the camera, and also I was in the physio bed. Okay. And then that day we had no goalkeeper, and then George say, "Hey Alvaro, goalkeeper coach, let's go." I warm at the goalkeeper. Okay. So I love that environment. So I go home, and then I receive a call. Alvaro, the people has no energy in the building. We need some help. And then Alvaro take
the toolbox now,
everything, and go over there to see what happened. I remember I was in the kitchen, and there is no energy in the kitchen or something like that. And then Shem tell me, Alvaro, so what are you doing? So that is what I tell you, that we put a lot hard work behind the scenes, because that is also time that we was not with the family. And also I have to say thank you for my family, because always support me in this project.
And I think that's kind of Aaron was talking about before, never give up, and I think without going too far away from that, for us we just always said never say no. Never say no. People would tell us you can't be in this league, you can't win this league, you can't bring this many foreign players, you can't do this, and keep telling us, and you can't have a Tercera club. And I think people like Alvaro, he said something around the office which I think people don't listen to or buy into, and I've heard you say it a few times, and for me it's really resonated with me the last 6 months and made me feel a bit emotional. He says, sometimes we need to make sure we don't forget the essence of Malaga City. What is Malaga City? Where did it come from? And what was the essence inside the DNA as to why we're able to sit here and enjoy something like today, why we're able to now be planning for 2 national football teams, and the Tercera boys and the 3rd national division girls.
Yeah, and listening to you two, man, it's almost a bit emotional, in listening to how far, because it is a sacrifice. But I think the reoccurring theme is you have to believe in the mission. The why is the biggest thing, and obviously you guys believe in helping young players, and it's great to see. But Alvaro, so with all that in mind, there's been so many changes over the years, right, to this point. What is something that stayed the same throughout from when you started to now?
I think I think that we continue with the same passion. Passion is passion, okay?
Yeah.
Passion. And also, I think that we continue with the same idea that the first thing that why we are here is for the sport. We wake up every mornings to try be better as a coach and as a person. And me personally, I think if I lose that two parts, I will be not here in the future.
Mm-hmm. And is that where you get? So you talk about that. You know, how rewarding is it working at Malaga City? You know, it's not a ordinary coaching role. You know, you see players. We look at the video there. You know, players from years ago that you can still to this day name exactly who they are and tell us a lot about them. So, what is it about this role that is so rewarding for you?
I didn't understand the question.
Yeah. So, like,
what do you like most?
What do you like most?
Okay. So, basically, what I like most is that I can be part of the life of each person that come. It's a pleasure to speak with people from every part of the world. And at least if I can be one part of his development, I'm so proud for that. Doesn't matter if his progress is to be a professional footballer or if his progress is to be a better person or if his progress is to play in a higher division. But I say always to my groups that I try to explain the team values. And me personally, I think that if you are a good person, after you can be a good player. But if you are only thinking in be a good player and you are not a good person, the end is coming.
Yeah, really, really good. And so, I mean, we've nearly 10 years now. I think next year we need to do something special. I'm sure we'll get planning that, James. But, you know, we've been here for 10 years of our lives. You know, we've had children, families. We've grown up into people ourselves. What do you see as the future of Malaga City? You know, for me, I feel this summer is kind of a real special moment and where we're at a crossroads. You know, we started with a dream. We spoke about lots of dreams publicly and privately, and we've kind of achieved lots of them. You know, we said we want to have a Tercera team ourselves, we built ourselves, and, you know, we've done that with some great work of lots of people over the last 10 years. And where do you see as the future, and where do you think we'll be in 3, 4, 5 years' time?
I think our mentality must to be the same one that when we started. When we started, everyone thought that we are crazy thinking that we are going to have a team in Tercera, and now it's a reality. So we need to think, we need to keep thinking in big, and to keep the same intensity of work and the same passion that I told you that I think is the key of all our program.
Amazing.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do for this last segment, you know, and it's kind of for you both really, is to gain a little bit of your knowledge of the history of the club, right? So let's start off in terms of the first ever game against the professional club for FC Malaga City. Who was it, and give us a little bit of information about that.
I know that one, and I'm not very happy with it. It was
I think it could be Elliot.
No, first team.
First team, yeah. First
sorry.
team.
Malaga, yeah.
Yeah, Malaga.
6-0, yeah, we lost.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a person who's no longer alive, and now.
Yeah, but we can see in that team maybe 4 that they are in the top level in La Liga.
Yeah, yeah.
Ontiveros, Luisillo, the centre back. And I don't remember, but I know that.
Yeah.
There is.
I remember we got told that we'd wasted a training session, so I remember going home with tail between the legs for sure.
Yeah, and now you look at us like playing, you know, PSG tomorrow, you know, the Barcelonas every year, so it certainly went, you know, well from there. But the first person that you remember, the first big signing, you know, the first FC Malaga City player to go on to sign for a professional club?
Yeah.
I think that I say, Elliot.
Yeah.
Elliot, I think, was the first professional contract in Canada, I think.
Went to Sweden first.
In Sweden, and then he go to Canada.
What do you remember about Elliot? What was it about him that was special?
I remember training in Frigiliana. I think it was the first training, and he was very quiet.
Yeah, very quiet.
Oh, he is very quiet. And I remember I said to George, this player how is here, because we was growing, we have known a lot good people, and he came and he really had a very good quality. And in that moment, I think was in Europa Point, could be.
Yeah.
And we was training. I was a player. This one of the things that I also did. And I remember the first contact with him there in Frigiliana pitch.
Yeah.
Wow. Obviously, the academy started in 2013, but it wasn't until 2017, if I'm correct, that the senior team started. Okay, so a lot of success early days. George, and you maybe touch on this one before Alvaro, jumps in, but give us an idea on the first professional loss, because it didn't actually come for a while, right? In terms of a competitive setting.
A very great start, and I think and it was a really interesting thing, because we'd been the minnows, the academy would go and play Malaga or Sevilla or Betis. We were playing mostly in Andalusia at that time, and we'd suffer in the games. They were a lot superior to us, and then we went into the men's side, obviously starting a bit of a lower category, and we dominated the games. But it was like being Real Madrid all of a sudden. Every team hated us. Every team wanted to beat us. We'd go around towns, and normally I'd get maybe 100 people. When we played, it'd be 400 or 500 and screaming. And then so when we kept winning, it didn't make people very happy. And then for us though, with the first loss, I'll never forget it, because our keeper got injured, and it shows everything's all linked together. Shem Jimenez went in goal, and we conceded 2-1 in the last minute. And I think half of us got soaked in beer afterwards when they sort of all stormed the pitch.
And last one, Alvaro, for you. So you were part of the coaching staff last year, right, with the senior team, Malaga City, obviously, with Alvaro as well. Adrian as well, sorry, my apologies. You secured the title on the last day of the season. Talk to us a little bit about that day, the team, and also the season as a whole, being part of the coaching staff.
Yeah, so I can tell you about the first loss in Almuñeca. I cannot remember, because a lot of things happened after that. But of course I can remember almost every games from last season of Malaga City Senior. And last game we won with Estación de Cártamas. We won 3-0, and was a apparently easy game, because the other team play for nothing, because they are not going to get promoted, and also they stay in a stable in the table. But I was so scared. Everyone was thinking, oh, it's done, but I was so scared, because it was a big effort for all of us, because we was training so we had our journey in the morning, and after we finish the work, we go to train to Nerja. You was also a player, and you are also in our family. Like, you have to do a lot of things of of every part. So it's just good memories, and again a lot efforts, good results. Okay, so we need to keep working, because we also need to know that some year is going to come a lot of effort without results.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Yeah, well, I think, like George said, a really fitting end to what has been another amazing show. I feel like I get a bit repetitive when we say this, but it's so interesting to hear all the stories and the background, and a huge shout out to obviously Alvaro, but obviously the rest of our guests as well, George. But just kind of wrapping up that after a monumental season, probably I would say the biggest in the club's history. Any sort of final words to everybody watching at home?
I think I talk a lot, and people probably get sick and tired hearing from me as well. But just thank you to, first of all of our players. Thank you to all of the families that do buy in and do believe in and can see the amazing people we have at this club and the direction we want to take it in. And more than all of that, thank you to everyone that is part of it. Yourself, Alvaro, and all the fantastic staff that we have. But thank you most of all to the people that do maybe the dirty work that not even all of our staff see. And I think that's what is the essence that this man said to our football club, and what hopefully will keep driving us forwards into 22-23. There's going to be a new journey, a journey into the unknown, and one that I can't wait to get back and get started with.
Absolutely. So we'll leave you, we're lucky to have the end of season party recently with all the players and staff involved. So we'll leave you with this video and thank you once again.